Hey everybody, it's Christine and welcome to Hormonally Speaking. I am here with my friend and colleague, Angie Plackis, and also my cat who just made some noise in the background to let you know that he's here and representing. Always excited to talk about the hormones and such. He gives these looks that are ridiculous. So anyways, this is a fun little episode that I asked Angie to go on this little journey with me of just kind of talking shop, because we're both in this functional health, functional nutrition world. And there's so much happening in it. And actually, I was just saying to her before we got started, you know, we've been talking for over an hour about all these things. I was like, we could have recorded.
We could talk another.
Exactly. 3 episodes. So, so basically we're just going to kind of kick it and have a conversation here. And I think some fun things will come up. Some of the things that we've been talking about are, you know, thyroid function and how important that is for women. And then also hair mineral analysis test, because Angie's really getting into that these days. And I love, you know, this is something I've kind of like played around with myself over the years on and off. And you really need to know how to actually read it. So,
yes.
So first, before we jump in, so you're a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner. So that's an FDNP, right?
FDNP.
Yeah. We all have all these fun names. We got to keep them.
Collecting
all kinds of letters, after our names, right? Yeah. And that's kind of a similar program, or the program that she did is similar to the program that I've been doing over the last, several months, in terms of learning how to use functional lab testing. And to really get to the root cause of what's going on with you. So we're kind of on that same wavelength, but then she's also doing this training with the hair mineral analysis. So you want to tell us a little bit about it?
So I took the hair mineral analysis test about November, got the results back, didn't have any interpretation, held on to it for a little while and thought, I want to learn more about it. I don't want someone else to interpret it yet. So I had the opportunity to get involved in a training course, and I'm just about done with that. And it has blown my mind. It's going to revolutionize my practice, because it's going to be the flagship test.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, I know that there are some people out there that kind of understand a little bit about how important minerals are, but not everybody kind of gets that. So can you tell us a little bit about what that's all about?
I like to say the minerals are the spark of life, because they are used in every enzyme reaction in our body. They're just absolutely necessary, obviously. But we underestimate the balance or imbalance of them. And we have no idea what that is. We can assume. I mean, folks assume all the time that the majority of us are magnesium deficient.
I was going to say magnesium is the big one.
And by and large, we are.
Yeah.
We're potassium deficient as well. I mean, our standard American diet sets us up to be mineral deficient, as well as our vitamins. Then you throw in their poor gut health and low stomach acid. So even if you're eating that great diet and that nutrient dense diet, which is rare, you may not be absorbing it. And it leads
90% of the issue.
It leads to so many problems. So until you get those minerals balanced, you're not likely to be successful in restoring your overall health.
And so that's why you're using this test to kind of determine, because this test kind of shows, a little bit more than just, you don't see, it's just high or low minerals. Like you can point out thyroid function stuff, adrenal stuff.
Exactly. I mean, you can look at that test and it'll show that, calcium is high and sodium's low, and you don't go, okay, so I don't need sodium, or I need sodium, but I don't need calcium. It's not that, you don't look at it that way. It's the balance of them and the ratios of one to the other that are reflective. I mean, you can look at, I think there's 6 or 7 ratios of one mineral to the other. And depending on where you are in that, is indicative of your thyroid health. And again, I'm not talking about your thyroid gland, but how well that thyroid hormone is getting into the cell where it needs to do its work, or not getting in the cell. There's a ratio that that's reflective of that. And in my own situation, my thyroid labs are good.
Yeah.
The doctor would look at my blood work and go, "You're good."
Yeah.
Except my hair mineral analysis suggests that the hormone is not getting into my cells.
I want to put a fine point
which
on
makes
that.
me hypometabolic.
Right. And that is something that I think, I mean, I didn't understand for a long time. And I think a lot of people don't understand for, you know, when they get these blood tests done, and we think blood tells us, you know, exactly what's going on in the body, when for a lot of our functions, it really doesn't, right? Because as you and I were talking about earlier, you know, blood has to maintain this homeostasis, right? It's you're not going to be up and down on things like potassium and sodium that much on your tests. Unless something's really, really wrong.
Right.
And that's when you're in the
By
hospital,
that time, yeah.
right? Like they've got
Right.
you on, you know,
Right.
the IV and stuff. But, you know, ultimately, like if you're up walking around, your blood is kind of going to maintain that. And so it looks like you're fine, but actually what's in the cells is a different story,
Exactly.
right?
And that's where the action is.
Right. And so how does that show up in the hair?
Well, your hair is dead cells.
Mm-hmm.
And they suggest that about 1.5 inches of new growth is reflective of the last 3 months.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, and again, when you test blood, you're getting a result of that moment in time.
Mm-hmm.
Your hair has 3 months of average of what's
Mm-hmm.
been going on
Mm-hmm.
in your cells at cellular level, and what your minerals are, what your and again, toxic metals
Mm-hmm.
will show up in your hair.
Right. And that's something that
and
is
they're not going to show up so much in your blood.
Yep.
Because your blood doesn't want them.
Yeah.
They're
You're
toxic.
like, I can't survive.
Yeah.
If they're
So
in here.
it pushes them someplace.
Yeah.
And they get stored.
Yeah.
So
and then also people will wonder sometimes when they start doing any kind of detox why they feel really bad, and it's because of those stored heavy metals. Yeah. You know, and for those that don't know, you know, I mean, heavy metals, it comes from so many different places in our lives that we don't even think about, you know, and, you know, everything from, I mean, we were talking about the copper IUD earlier, you know, that's a thing that I think a lot of women don't think about, because we think of the IUD as being one of the less harmful.
And it's, yes, because it's non-hormonal.
Right, it's non-hormonal, exactly. But it's there, right, you know, right in your goods, like releasing this copper. And then, you know, I mean, aluminum, you know, if you use regular antiperspirant, you're going to have that there. I mean, it's in, our canned foods, it's, you know, et cetera, et cetera. It's just our body has to, you know, our liver has to detox all this stuff. And so when it gets sort of overloaded because it's dealing with, okay, you just drank some alcohol, or you had some caffeine, or you took ibuprofen.
You've got high levels of estrogen.
Yeah, it needs to deal with all of that kind of stuff. And so it'll end up essentially kind of like putting to, you know, for your safety, putting stuff, storing it in your tissues and everything. And then,
and even then, if your liver does its job and those toxins are released into your bile and then into your colon, you're constipated, then it just gets recirculated and goes through the whole process again.
Well, I'm glad we're talking about this, because I'm actually doing a series right now on Instagram about estrogen dominance, and I was talking about the liver, you know, and really the focus was on estrogen, but it's all of these other things that your liver has to detoxify, get out your body. It dumps it into your bile, you know, goes in your colon, and then if you have, you know, just to get a little specific, like too high of the enzyme beta glucuronidase, that can break up the conjugated estrogen and release it, you know. And then there's there's release of all the stuff into your body again.
The same thing is true with heavy metals and copper and everything else. And we know our livers are struggling so much in those detox pathways. If you're lucky enough then to get it out, and then throw in someone doesn't have a gallbladder anymore.
I know. That's okay. So that's actually, I'm glad you brought that up too, because someone asked me a question on that series. And I did a little research, but I wasn't super sure. But, you know, she said, what is estrogen, essentially, what is estrogen dominance like, and how do you deal with it when you don't have a gallbladder? And, you know, I was like, okay, so essentially when you don't have a gallbladder, your bile is being kind of dripping right into your small intestine, right? And so, I mean, I know, you know, I always recommend bile salts for anybody that's lost their gallbladder. But yeah, I'm unsure about how that works when you're trying to do the
Yeah,
estrogen detox.
and I'm not sure about that either, because the issue with bile just dripping into the small intestines, the harm in that too is because now you don't have your gallbladder reacting to eating.
Yeah.
So you're not really eating your estrogen. So I'm not sure.
Right. Yeah.
If still it's get in that bile
in that same way.
Yeah.
That's something I'll have to
that's
dig
interesting.
into.
I never thought about that.
Yeah. But whoever doesn't have a gallbladder, really do bile salts, I mean.
I have followed Tom Brimmeyer. Dr. Tom Brimmeyer was one initially when I got started in my health journey with thyroid. And he uses carrots. The fiber in carrot apparently helps absorb estrogen.
Oh. Yeah, actually I have heard about do a carrot a day.
He recommends a carrot salad. It has carrots, coconut oil, and apple cider vinegar, I think, in it, all the good stuff. It is snowing.
What?
Isn't that snowing?
It's totally snowing. That's so funny.
It's like 45 degrees when I came in.
They didn't call for snow today, right?
Okay.
Welcome to our brave new world, right? That's all right.
So, I did that for a while too, and I'm menopausal now, so now my estrogen is non-existent on the door.
Right. Can I ask you, do you mind if I ask if you do any bioidenticals?
I do not. And interesting you asked that, because that is the very thing that started me in this desire in functional medicine.
Really? Because you were on
Because
them?
I was on bioidenticals.
Okay.
The estrogen, testosterone pellet, and progesterone. And I had thought it was all working well for about a year. I went in to have my pellets put in. And the week following that insertion of the testosterone and estrogen, which were both the lowest level pellets that they had, I was not right. I had PMS symptoms that I never ever had, even when I was menstruating, when I was cycling. Yeah. I called the doctor. I said, there's a problem here. This is wrong. I'm cramping like crazy. I'm irritable. I couldn't stand myself. And he says, I don't know what to tell you. I said, could you have maybe put the wrong pellet in? No, not possible. I got my records. We used, I don't remember what milligram pellet. I said, something's really wrong. So instinctively, I started taking mega doses of progesterone to try to balance the symptoms of the estrogen. Yeah. And that helped, but I was taking 800 milligrams of progesterone.
Wow.
Crazy amount.
Wow. Oral or?
Orally, knowing that a lot of that you're lost anyway. So I did find another office that would draw blood. And I went in to see them after I had my blood drawn, and they said, well, you've got the estrogen of a pregnant woman. Jeez. So again, I called the doctor back.
So it was 2,000 milligrams or something.
So I called the doctor back. I said, explain this. If you put the right pellet in, why do I have the estrogen of a pregnant woman when I'm in menopause?
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you, but we didn't put the wrong one in.
He just denied.
So I started doing more research, and then I got really scared because they're estrogen-producing tumors. So I said, well, if it didn't come from that, then it's coming from somewhere.
Right.
And it's not because I'm pregnant.
Right.
So I ended up spending money on an ultrasound and all these things to confirm I didn't have an estrogen-producing tumor. Well, after 4 months, all those levels came down. It was the pellet. And that was having worked in healthcare my entire career. That was the first time that I thought, they don't know everything.
That was the wake-up call.
That was the wake-up call.
Yeah.
And, when I had started researching all into the hormones, I started researching then into my thyroid, which I'd been on thyroid replacement for 30 years. And just told after I'd had my son, oh, you're hypothyroid, here's a pill, take it for the rest of your life. And because I didn't have the distrust in the conventional medicine, okay.
Yeah, you're like, sure,
I'll do that. And I guess that's the way it is. So research into that led me to some other discoveries, and I said, I can't do this anymore. And so I went the functional medicine route, and so glad that I did.
Yeah. So
So
how have you
no bioidentical hormone replacement.
And how have you felt in doing that? Because I know that, I mean, I know it's different. It's so different for every woman.
And going back to testing, my Dutch suggests I hardly have enough estrogen to even for them to
show up on there.
Show up and feel good about, and I think I certainly have some symptoms of the low estrogen. But I'm hoping in doing some things with mineral balancing in my diet and all kinds of things that maybe I can make some difference in that. I just recently discovered that boron actually will affect estrogen levels.
Yeah, I think I read
zinc,
that recently.
Copper.
Definitely zinc for testosterone.
Testosterone and progesterone for women.
Yeah. Well, I'm interested to hear how that goes.
So I'm kind of excited about that. I've really increased my boron level and fun stuff.
Yeah,
Just
fun
really
stuff
fun
for
stuff.
sure. Yeah.
And the things, lithium. My hair analysis suggests I'm real low on lithium, which can be dangerous too. Heard the other day that in areas that lithium is high in the drinking water, there's a significant decrease in depression and suicide.
Because lithium has been used, right?
Well, it's used mega doses, for bipolar and things like that.
Right. But, we need. I mean, that's the thing is that so much of the stuff that we think of as toxic, we need a little bit of it, in order for and I mean, I'm really fascinated, and I feel like it's on my list to get training in the hair mineral analysis too, because there are definitely people out there that are like, you have to balance the minerals before you do anything else.
I mean, just the calcium to potassium ratio excited me to start with, just because it says that, I'm not getting thyroid really into the cell where it needs to be.
Right.
And how much, and just think of the clients that will finally be vindicated. It's like, I know, but my levels have always been normal, and the doctor said I shouldn't be depressed, and my hair shouldn't be falling out, and you shouldn't have all these symptoms of a low thyroid because your blood levels are fine.
Right, absolutely.
So I can imagine the number of folks that go, well, that's why.
But to make that,
to turn it around,
to make that even understood or validated at all by allopathic doctors is going to be, I mean, there was something that I was just, I think in one of the support groups I'm in, the woman was like, I don't understand why my OBGYN does not believe in estrogen dominance. And I said, to a certain extent, I can't even blame them, because that's not their training, right?
No,
their training is not to read hormone tests and to analyze them and understand them. Their training is when there's issues, you go on birth control, or you have surgery, or you have some kind of, hormone blocker, essentially.
And a medication, it's drugs or surgery.
Right. And that's what they've been taught, and so you can't really expect to go to kind of a traditional doctor at this point and get any other answer. So to me, it's like, don't even bother getting angry about it at this point, because that's just, I appreciate the doctors that are actually saying, well, that's not what I know, because I've been trained in that way. This is what I know. And you're really good at what you've been trained in. But, if you want different answers for what you've been, getting from your doctor isn't working for you, you got to find a different doctor. And it really sucks that you have to pay money to do it, but it's just the reality of where we're at right now. And I really do believe in the long run, you save money.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're not chasing.
You're either going to spend now or spend later.
Oh, and
you're going to spend
so many
not only
your
money, but your vitality.
Absolutely. But just think about, like, when I had just the supplements that I have, did my DIY on, like trying to figure it out and not having testing to go by. It's just been like, oh my God.
And in reality, sometimes you could be making situations
worse. Oh, absolutely.
If you were to assume, for instance, that copper is wonderful, and it does have a lot of wonderful properties, and you start seeing all the copper bracelets, the copper, the copper's
oh, you're right. The copper bracelets are a big thing.
And everyone should have copper, and take your trace minerals and make sure you get your copper. But for someone who's copper toxic,
absolutely.
And you don't know that without testing.
Yep.
You can make some assumptions.
Yeah. That's the beauty of bio-individuality, right?
Absolutely.
And that's the thing that I think people have to start to wrap their brains around, is that there is no one size fits all ever. And you got to dig sometimes a little bit to figure out,
it's trial and error. You try this and that didn't work. And
yep.
It's not just a one thing.
Yeah. So when you are using these tests now with your clients, you kind of make some assessments based off of their results. And then do you do more testing and, getting specific?
It would depend. The first test, not so much. The first test, then you want a supplement protocol and diet protocol to help hopefully balance those minerals out. If once those are balanced, you're still having issues, then you might need to dig a little deeper.
Right.
Or if maybe they didn't get balanced and you're still seeing this ratio particularly high, and this ratio is significant for liver dysfunction, or this ratio is adrenal, then you may want to do some additional testing. But it's a wonderful, relatively inexpensive test to start with and get a big bang for your buck.
Yeah. Absolutely. Another thing that I've been reading a little bit about is some of these genetic tests that can guide you on what food is best for you, which I think is really fascinating. Like I was reading about like coconut, right? That's such a big thing. I was like,
it's not always good for everyone.
No. And, based on your genes, and I don't remember
ancestrally, if you weren't, your ancestors didn't come from, a tropical environment where they ate just like, to think that I could eat like an Inuit would be unreasonable.
Yeah. And that's what we always do, right? We're like, oh, these people are so healthy and they do this. So
they
do
evolved
this, to do that.
Work. I just was when you even look at the microbiome, I was listening to something the other day that suggests that the Inuit, they've evolved to have this microbiome that works for them.
Right. It's completely different than ours.
Eat that kind of
fat
and have a healthy microbiome because ours didn't evolve that way. So,
and that's what, I know a lot of people will ask me about the blood type diet, and I think for some people it works and some people it doesn't. It never really worked for me, but I do find it fascinating when you look, into genes more, and like I forget what the gene marker was, but essentially, there's a gene marker that can tell you that saturated fat's not good for you. Right. And we've been in this thing, in the past 30 years in sort of mainstream, like, ooh, fat is bad for you. Right. And then you have, and then you have the alternative or whatever you want to call it, nutrition world saying, no, fat is really good for you. But it's like, it's these extremes. Right. And balance.
It's all about
and
balance.
It's not true for everyone, what is good or not, and so I'm excited about this gene aspect, right?
And I think that's another tool in our toolbox.
Yep, exactly. Yeah.
Not one tool is going to be enough.
Right, absolutely. And it's pretty fascinating, I feel like, what's on the horizon right now. Yeah.
There's going to be new and greater things.
Yeah, and particularly with the microbiome, it's the genetics and the microbiome, I think, is what it's going to all come down to figure out, and fecal matter transplants to go along with the microbiome. I think that's where when we've done so much damage to our gut, I would totally do a fecal matter transplant because of what's happened to me. If I could, like, if I could just get, because I'm going to be doing some hardcore, taking of bacterial, good bacteria supplements for a long time. And it's like, if I could do a fecal matter transplant and get that stuff just right up in there, that would be amazing,
Can you imagine there'd be clinics around town?
I feel like that's well, I don't know if they'll have clinics around town.
I think this was my son told me the other day. He had read or heard about somebody who did a fecal transplant into his cat.
Wow. Okay, let me stop for a second, because I realize some people may not have heard of fecal matter transplants, and I'm sorry I didn't define that first. So basically, it is taking the poop of
a
healthy person, and they when it's done, because you can actually do this. It is actually the FDA allows it for C. diff. That's the only thing that it's approved for. And it's actually, I think it's like 90% or something. Effective rate for C. diff when, antibiotics will not work for C. diff again and again, and just makes things worse. And there's definitely studies being done out there for Crohn's disease. There's some promising stuff on the horizon for that.
Even,
I really think
even diabetes, they have
really?
done. You did
that, no,
they've done
that
fecal transplant of a healthy microbiome into a diabetic. That diabetic then is no longer diabetic.
That doesn't surprise me at all. And so, yeah, basically you're implanted with this, this healthier poop, and they go and this is kind of why I would want to do it. This is one of those things that, yes, I want to do legit, because I want them to like screen it and make sure that like things are good and we know it's in it, because there are people out there that are doing it kind of, I don't want to call it the black market, but like basically you can, and some people, there's things on the internet you can look up and see how to do it
one
yourself.
of the first ones with C. diff was a young fella that had retractable C. diff, couldn't do anything about it. And he took a fecal of his roommate.
Wow.
And it worked.
Wow.
And it was kind of
that opened the door. Thank you, guy, whoever you were. That's amazing. Yeah.
Roommates, you just never know.
I know, right? Usually it's not a good thing like that.
Right.
Yeah. You don't usually think of poop as being a good thing either.
I'll share my poop.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's interesting too, because there's, some studies around how our microbiome will start to essentially kind of like be similar to the people that we live with too,
kind of like hormones.
Exactly. And things get around. And things get around, like bacteria is going to move around, and you can't all keep it all in one place. But I think it's a really powerful thing that even my colorectal surgeon who reversed me said that he's like, yeah, in the next 5 years.
Cool.
Yeah, I know. I was pretty.
Well, I'm wondering too, and hopefully allopathic medicine will cut on board.
Yeah.
And maybe the more beneficial thing, instead of for your yearly physical, instead of drawing the same labs they always draw, because they can treat with drugs the things that are outliers.
Right.
What if we started giving a stool sample at our physical?
Absolutely. That is, that's what I say every time, a client does a GI map with me. I'm like, I really wish everyone could do this, because
it should be a part of our physical.
It gives you such a good indication, much more than, I always tell clients if they have anything going on, definitely go to a gastroenterologist and get the physical aspect looked at, right? We want to make sure you don't have polyps. We want to make sure, no colon cancer and those things. But in terms of let's work with what's going on in your system and actually knowing from top to bottom of your digestive system, like a stool analysis test, a good one is going to tell you that stuff. And then you know what to work with, and you change your entire health. When I first did the restorative wellness solutions level 1, and they kind of, I went into that really wanting to do more with hormones, and that's level 2. And you had to go through level 1 first, and, they kind of right off the bat, they're like really focusing on gut health and focusing on the GI map and MRT. We do that no matter what people come to us for. And I was like, I don't really, and then I was like, by the end, I get it, because it's everything starts there.
Well, and I look at healing too. It's a layered, like we talked about, it's never one thing. It's never just restoring the gut, because there's some ramifications of it, because what about the food sensitivities?
Exactly.
Creating the leaky gut, and it's just, it's multi-layered.
There's so many layers.
It's not just one test. It's just, where do you start and what do you do first?
Right.
And I was thinking, actually, last night when I was having insomnia, and this is why I have insomnia. Because these things get in my head. It's
absolutely.
I was trying to think of health and taking it back to the one thing. It's like, what is the one thing? And as I thought about it, the one thing I think, if you go all the way to it, is mitochondrial health.
Yes.
Because all these other things, the gut, the microbiome, everything impacts the mitochondria.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you can get that healthy, which requires all those other things, eliminating the toxins, the infections, the viruses, having adequate amount of nutrients and minerals, all of that's necessary for mitochondrial health. And mitochondrial health is, you don't live if you don't have a good mitochondria, and you end up with cancer if you've got a dysfunctional mitochondria.
And the thing is, we're doing so many things kind of unfortunately on a daily basis that are impacting our mitochondria, right? And like just even if we're trying to be healthy, it's like the chemicals that are in our environment.
Unless you want to.
And so, and I don't bring that up to like scare anybody. No. I think we just have to all do
aware.
You have to be aware, and you have to know that like, yes, health does take work these days. Like it isn't the 1940s where, there wasn't any pesticides and you got your food from farms and, it just, we live in a completely different world, because people ask me that sometimes, like, shouldn't the body be able to take care of itself on its own? If you just
really does a good job.
Yeah. Considering, I know, I sometimes
I'm amazed.
Once I list things out for people, they're like, okay, because it's like, okay, it's not just the food that you're eating. And even if you're eating the best food in the world, our soil is deficient, right? So you're not getting all the nutrients that you used to get, like not even close.
I want to add something to that because I've always felt that way too. And I think just to a degree, it's true. I heard a lady, I went to the co-op a couple of weekends ago and listened to a gal speak on gut health, really good. And she was like an avid gardener and all that too. And she brought up a study that's been done, again, I don't remember the year of it, that looked into that. And it said that the nutrient level is down 40% in our produce. But the reason they said that is, and that's just like the nutrients that we're taking in, in our diet, based on the produce that we have. It's a lack of diversity. And the lack of diversity is because it's big farming. They've got to come up with a product that's going to make it across the country in the back of that truck and not get bruised, not spoil. And so, and I thought about that. I go to the grocery store in produce. I can choose between the green pepper, the red pepper, the yellow pepper, only one variety, one variety of zucchini when there's like 30 varieties of zucchini.
Right. Yeah.
So a lot of that is in part because the soil is depleted, but because we're not getting the most nutrient dense produce because there's no diversity.
Yeah. I mean, that's such a good point. That's the other level
and
of
I really, after I learned that and went to the grocery store, oh my goodness, you're right. This is my zucchini option.
This is it.
There.
Yep.
That's it.
Yeah. It's got to look a certain way. And yeah, absolutely.
And that might not be the most nutrient dense of the varieties.
Right. I mean, and how that impacts, that monoculture impacts our environment too, right? Yeah. And makes things so much worse too. And that's why, I'm amazed by people that are trying to bring back like heirloom, seeds and things like that. Yeah.
I wish I had it in me to.
I wish I was a gardener. I'm like, I've tried so many times and I'm horrible at it. I kill everything. So I feel like I have to be dependent on other people that are good at that kind of stuff, But yeah, going back to our bodies, like they are amazing that they can take what, comes at them on a daily basis. And we're still like high functioning on the whole. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, we're struggling on certain levels, but we're high functioning.
If you look, and this is the other thing when you really get into nutrition and health, it's difficult for me to go to the grocery store because I can't help but look at the stuff the person behind me has put on the conveyor belt and not want to say, oh man, you can do so much better than that, and then look at them and go, I can already see where part of your problem is.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'm not saying that to be judgmental, but wishing that I could take it all on and teach everyone that there's a better way.
And this is,
to eat and to feel and
I could go on many, tangents with this, but I think one of the things I just want to bring up because it made me think about it as you were talking about that is, I think right now, like Beyond Burger or, these vegetarian burger situations. And people think that they're being so healthy and eating them. And, I'm not trying to knock them. I'm not trying to,
marketing
has been amazing. Yeah. And I'm not trying to knock anybody that likes them, that, wants to enjoy them every once in a while. But, if you look at the list of ingredients on these boxes, it's got 30 things in them, half of which you can't even pronounce. And that is part of what hurts your body.
It's not food.
It's not food. And that's the thing, is that to get out of the mindset that these packaged things are food, because they're not. They're created in labs. They are, synthetic chemicals, they're synthetic vitamins. They're not things that our body knows what it is, what to do with it, you know? And so, you know, again, like having things on occasion is fine, but really thinking about what, if you're going to be plant-based, like eat plants,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, don't think that, you know, these
And
meat
prepare
substitutes.
those plants correctly.
Right,
Because there's
absolutely.
a lot of them need to be soaked or.
Absolutely, for sure. And, you know, but just don't think that these meat substitutes are healthy for you. You know,
Right.
they're not real food. And so there's not a lot of health benefit for them. So.
And we were talking earlier too, you know, certainly for good reasons. There's quite the gluten-free
Yep.
craze.
Yep.
And you know, there's a whole aisle in the grocery store of gluten-free options, which
Absolutely.
is wonderful.
Yeah.
And yet not wonderful
Yeah.
because, again, just like when they tried to make the burger into a plant,
Yep.
they're trying to make gluten products out of synthetic or gums or.
Yes, the gums are so huge.
So you've not done yourself, or you've done yourself a disservice if you replace the gluten with the processed gluten-free product.
Absolutely. And that's, I saw somebody do a post about that recently on Instagram, and it, you know, it was essentially like healthy gluten-free eating versus non-healthy. And
right.
you know, on the non-healthy side is just all those packaged products.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I've done it myself where I've like talked myself into like, oh, this is healthy, you know, and it's, I mean, I definitely can't eat much of those foods without feeling not good, you know, and it's about being honest with yourself, and you know, everybody's got to have some enjoyment and to have some special times, like, you know, have your Friday night pizza, and if you are gluten intolerant, have your gluten-free pizza, and, you know, but really think on a daily basis of real foods at core. And then I want to bring up what we were talking about beforehand, because I think this is so good, like going back to the hair mineral analysis, going back to potassium being a big you know, deficiency. I know for me, I feel like a lot of adrenal with adrenal stuff, right? It tends to be,
and magnesium even more so, which is why I think I could be confident in recommending a magnesium supplement
for
to
everyone. Yeah, I do for all my clients.
Because stress burns through magnesium.
Yep. And it's like 300 body processes or something.
There's no one
who gets enough
that
magnesium.
I know that isn't dealing with some stress.
Yep.
And certainly if our clients are coming to us with symptoms, they have stress.
Yep, absolutely.
So I'm confident, and you can take a lot of magnesium. You got to take the right magnesium. Because
what is your favorite? Do you like glycinate?
Glycinate. But folks and this is the unfortunate thing. You go to Walmart and you pick up a magnesium supplement, and it's largely magnesium oxide, and it'll say that it's good for bone health and all this stuff, except it's a laxative.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's like oxide and citrate are the ones.
Citrates are laxatives. So, but if you're taking a good form of magnesium like the glycinate, you can take it to bowel tolerance.
Yeah. I will tell you, because I've had this personally happen, and then I know just a couple of other people, sometimes the glycinate can be, I never know how to say this word, excitatory. Like it's
really? Instead of calming?
Yep. So
I wish it would do that with me.
Well, it's funny because I was taking it at night and not being able to sleep, but I was taking multiple things and I was trying to figure out what it was.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought it would have been magnesium.
So I actually do malate.
Yeah, malate or glycinate.
Yeah, that, you know.
Bisglycinate.
Glycinate, yeah. So just for people to be aware that sometimes that happens, you know, I mean, I still think glycinate is the best absorbed, the most bioavailable form. But if you know, you can also, like with that bottle, I just started taking it in the morning instead. You know, like
that's interesting. I'll have to pay attention to that, because I think I take mine. I divide it because I'm taking so much of it.
Yeah,
I divide it up during the day, so I am taking some at night.
Yeah,
I'll have to try not doing that.
And you know, and just see. I mean, like I said, I don't think it's a lot of people that happens to, but it is a thing that I've seen enough that I'm like, okay, that's a thing that wasn't just in my head, you know.
But that's true with so many different minerals too.
Absolutely.
You know, you'll hear on the internet or in the the magazine at the grocery store that everyone needs this mineral or that mineral. It's the form of mineral.
Absolutely.
That's important. And that's true, obviously, with magnesium.
Yeah.
Going back to potassium, though, too. we were just talking about, I mean, the RDA, which oftentimes is lower than what we really need, is 4,700 milligrams for potassium.
That's amazing to me. It's that high.
When you think
RDA.
that, you know, a good sized banana might be 400.
Yeah.
You know, you'd have everything you ate that day would have to be a high potassium.
Yeah, to get the RDA.
To get the RDA.
That's amazing, because RDA is always
lower,
too low. You know, pretty much.
And then again, you got to factor in: are you even absorbing that amount that you're eating?
Right. How's your digestion?
How's your digestion?
So, can you talk about the potassium broth then, so people can?
I discovered a way to get your your potassium up is you can make a potassium broth. A russet potato, if you're going to eat a baked potato, is good. It's got a high amount of potassium if you eat the peeling on it. So what you can do is you can use an organic russet potato, but peel the potato like 4 or 5, and you make a broth with that, with some additional vegetables, carrots, celery, turnip, parsley. I've got the recipe, but you make a broth like you would a bone.
Parsley's so good for your kidneys too.
Like a vegetable broth or a bone broth, you make it like that. You know, simmer it for an hour, hour and a half, and then strain it, and then you've got a beautiful broth. I love the taste of it.
I think that's such a great way.
I mean, I like to sip on that instead in the morning rather than coffee.
Yeah, nice.
And then because bone broth has got so many wonderful benefits too, I now just make the potassium broth, throw it in with my bone broth, and I've got covered all the bases.
Yeah. Well, and the thing too about, you know, what's so great about using real food, is that when you do a potassium broth, you're also getting some sodium in there. Exactly. You're getting other minerals in there. It's never just the one thing, you know, but it's so helpful to drink your minerals in that way, right? Because you're absorbing it better.
And apparently that broth, and I don't have the recipe exactly. I can get it, but well, apparently it's got like 110 or 1,100 milligrams of potassium.
I was going to ask if you knew.
They said
so. Then you could drink like 2 of those a day, and then if you're, you know, eating some, that's definitely going in my my little bag of tricks. Yeah,
because otherwise it's. I have a potassium bicarbonate powder that I get from Seeking Health. It's got 500 milligrams. You just mix a little bit in with water and drink that.
And that's another way people can do it too. But I mean, if you can get it from food, it's always a good idea.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've been doing a lot of banana and avocado. Lentils. Red lentils are
high in potassium. Okay, that's good to know. I did know the banana. I think that's the one.
Most people don't realize that potato has more than banana.
Yeah.
The whole potato.
Yeah.
The only problem is when you make your broth, this is what I've discovered, is now I've got to find something to do with those potatoes.
Right.
Because they're organic potatoes. Right. I am not wasting.
Yeah. Do you not eat the potatoes then?
No, I do.
Okay.
But I got to have something in mind.
Right. To do with it.
So
right. Not just like throw it away.
Most recently when I made broth, then I made a potato soup.
Nice. There you go. You got all the good liquids
and don't be afraid of potatoes.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think
do not be afraid of potatoes.
That has been one of those foods, right? On like paleo and keto and everything, and it's just like potatoes are bad, and I'm like, no, they're awesome. And for some people, actually, recently, I feel like potatoes have been better for me than sweet potatoes.
Yeah.
And I was talking to a menopause expert, and she's actually against sweet potatoes. She was just like she's very much like, you know, protein being even more important as you're going into menopause and in menopause, and that, you know, like the starchiness of sweet potatoes and the sweetness being too much.
I'm a fan of all the root vegetables.
I love them. Yeah, I could eat them.
And I noticed, because I monitor, I don't have blood sugar problems, but I just do it because I'm a biohacker. And that's what I do. So I have not seen a problem. I mean, even after eating a bowl of potato soup the other night, checked my blood sugar an hour after, I was back down to before. You have to prick
yourself every time you do it.
Yeah,
that's the only thing that's kept me from getting it. Yeah, I'm just, I know, it's ridiculous.
I will bring mine over because it does not hurt.
Okay. And the thing is,
it's
like
such a tiny amount.
I've had a million, things in my veins. I don't know why but I kind of want to start doing it to do it. Yeah.
Because you can determine yourself
what foods aren't working for you. Like,
jacks up your sugar compared to others. And it's not always the ones they say.
Right.
I mean, I like to think that, it's the potato, starchy potatoes, and bread probably pretty much for everybody. Because that's just like sugar.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's another interesting thing with magnesium. I learned that it takes 53 milligrams of magnesium to metabolize, or you burn through 53 milligrams of magnesium for a teaspoon of sugar.
I have read that.
So if you're stressed out and you're eating a standard American diet full of sugar
and coffee, and
you are really going to deplete your magnesium.
Huge. I'm like, I want to go take magnesium right now. But I mean, it's so true that people don't realize the depletion rate. I wish they'd make
supplements with higher dosages.
Yeah.
I'm like taking 6 a day.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing, is that
I fill up my little pill thing. It's embarrassing.
My dad was in the hospital, and he's at home and is on all these medications. But I was really impressed. They brought him this pill box that was,
morning and night.
It was 7 days a week, morning, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and bedtime.
Oh, wow.
I know it was, but I was like, I need to find where you can get those, because I need to get that for clients.
I got one the other day that has morning and evening.
No, this one So it's amazing. Okay, we could go on forever, and I know you guys are like, oh my God, they're just bouncing all around. But we're gonna wrap this up today. This is what we do. This is what we like to do. So if you enjoyed this episode and us chatting it out and having Gracie sitting right here with us, if you're listening, you can't see it, but my cat's all up in the mix of the video. But if you enjoyed this, let me know, because we can do it again. And if you want to send me any topics that you'd like for us to discuss, we can do that, because we just love talking about this stuff. So but for today, we're gonna wrap it up. And do you have a website right now where people
I don't have a website up yet.
Okay. So be on the lookout. I'll add that to the show notes when she does have the website. So if you want to contact her about working together, because she's really great at the work that she does. So thank you, Angie, for being here. I appreciate it. Yeah. Okay. I'll see you guys next time.